7th grade Connected Math midterm review, page 2, number 2. The table below shows some data Carmen collected during her swim team practice. And we have number of breaths, and they show you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and number of meters swum. And you have all that information there. The first question is asking us, what are the two variables? They gave us the two variables. They're right there, so this is nice and easy. Number of breaths and number of meters swum. Now it says graph the data from the table on the axes below. Use an appropriate interval on the x-axis and the y-axis. Give the table a title and put the variables on the correct axis. Okay, we may not tell you this on the midterm and even the final. We might just say, as we did above, that make sure that you graph all the appropriate or the necessary elements. Here we gave you a little more than what we might give you on the midterm, so make sure you know all of them. Alright, let's get the easy stuff out of the way first. I have Carmen's swim practice as my title, and I labeled the X and the Y to get that out of the way. Again, since they had the table filled out up here, they gave us the variables and they put breaths on top, so we know breaths is the independent variable. So I put breaths as the variable down here, the independent variable, and the dependent variable again was on the bottom of the chart, so you know that this is the dependent variable that goes on the y-axis. Okay, for our variables down here, they gave us numbers up here, so we'll just go with those numbers for breaths. And then we're going to have to do some thinking here with these numbers, and there's a reason why. Alright, so we have to pick a certain number to go by for the dependent intervals here. We start at 0, we end at 24. You generally want to try to pick something easy to go by. I'm going to go by 5s in mine, and that's going to give me 5 intervals. Again, you want to try to shoot for 10, but that's not that bad going with 5. Now notice these were not even numbers. Here it went up by 5, then it went up by 3, then it went up by 4, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 4, which is why I had to pick numbers to go by, and I went by 5s. Okay, so now we have our intervals set, and the last thing we have to do is plot our points. First point is right 0, up 0, so we're going to plot that below. And we have that plotted right here. Next point we want to do is right 1, up 5. Alright, so we have our point there, and then the next one says right 2, up 8. So I got my point there. Notice that it's a little off here. Alright, so our next one is right 3, up 12, so we're going to go right 3, up to 12. And I continue to plot in the points going right, then up, right, then up. So we have all the points below here. Now the question is, does it make sense to connect the points, and then why or why not? Alright, this one's kind of tricky here, but you have number of breaths and meters swum. Basically, you can't take a half a breath, so you're breathing and then you're holding your breath, swimming a little bit, and then taking the next one. So we're going to say no, you cannot connect the points because you can't have half of a breath. Next question says, during what interval did Carmen swim the most meters? Now you can look here and you can tell your intervals here, but this is kind of difficult, so another way of making the judgment call is to scroll up and look at your table. Between 0 and 1, she swam 5. Between 1 and 2, 3. Between 2 and 3, 4. Between 3 and 4, 3, and so on and so forth. So when you look at them all, it's actually between 0 and 1. When you're listing an interval, you need to say the starting point and the ending point. If you just say the number 1 and don't list the rest, then you don't know what you're talking about. Do you mean 0 to 1 or 1 to 2? That's why you have to list two numbers between 0 and 1. The next question says, during what interval did Carmen swim the least amount of meters? Again, we can look at our graph here, but it's probably much easier to look at the table. Between 0 and 1 they went 5, and that was the most, so that doesn't work. Here they went 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it's between the interval 4 to 5. We have our answer here, and that concludes question number 2 on the midterm review.